The sky above the alien city of Kelvora cracked with fire. Screams echoed from the broken towers as explosions ripped through the golden spires. Soldiers ran through the streets, some retreating, others chasing. Metal winds of warplanes cast shadows on the ground below. The peaceful planet once known for its harmony had become a battlefield. Near the city center, a group of alien prisoners knelt on the smooth stone of the courtyard. Most were women and children, their hands tied, their faces covered in ash and fear. One of them was a young alien girl named Saria. Her silver skin had turned dull from dust, and her violet eyes looked up, full of silent fire. A soldier shouted in a rough alien tongue. He pulled Saria to her feet by her long braided hair and dragged her toward the execution line. One by one, prisoners had been kneeling, heads down, waiting for the blade to fall. Saria stumbled but didn't cry out. She had always believed in peace. She had always believed in mercy. But that belief had shattered the moment her city was betrayed, when the soldiers she thought would protect her began cutting down her people like they were weeds. The war had come fast and without warning. Kelvora had stayed neutral for centuries, protected by a treaty signed long ago by many systems, including Earth. But something had changed. The treaty was broken. The humans who once served as allies had vanished, pulled back to their own planet. Saria never blamed them. She knew most humans had no say in galactic politics, except for him. His name was Jack Mercer. A soldier. A human. He had been stationed on Kelvora 2 years ago as part of a peacekeeping force. He was kind, stubborn, and fearless. While other humans kept their distance, Jack had learned their language, studied their culture, and even joined in their festivals. That's how Saria met him. At first, she didn't understand him. His humor was strange. His voice was low and rough. But slowly something grew between them. Friendship, understanding, maybe more. But when the bombs fell and the humans were ordered to evacuate, he disappeared. She thought he had left with the rest. She thought she was alone. Now, standing on the cold stone floor with her hands tied and a blade waiting, she closed her eyes. Her heart beat steady. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. But inside, she whispered a name she thought she'd never say again. Jack. Across the rooftops, a shadow moved. No one saw him. Not the soldiers, not the prisoners, not the captain. With the raised sword, Jack Mercer crouched behind a ruined pillar, his rifle slung across his back, his chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. He wore alien armor stripped from a fallen enemy, his face hidden by a helmet. He had returned. He had disobeyed orders, slipped off the last ship, hid underground for weeks, gathering maps, finding survivors, waiting for a chance. And now there she was, Saria, alive but only for a few more seconds. The executioner lifted his blade high above her head. The alien crowd watched silently, too broken to cry. Jack stood up, aimed, and fired. The sound of the sniper shot cracked like thunder. The executioner's head snapped back, and he fell with a thud, the blade clanging beside him. Screams rang out. Panic spread. Saria didn't move at first. She blinked, expecting death, but instead saw her captor drop to the floor. Blood spread across the stone. Then more shots followed fast and sharp. The soldiers fell one by one. She turned toward the rooftops just as a figure leaped down from above. Her heart stopped. It was him. His armor was scratched. His hands were bleeding. But those eyes, those human eyes behind the visor, locked with hers. He ran toward her as more guards shouted in rage and raised their rifles. Jack slid across the stone, slicing through her restraints with a combat knife. "You're not dying today," he said, breathless. "Not on my watch." Saria stared at him. She should have asked how he was alive, why he was here. But she didn't. She only whispered one word, "You came." Jack pulled her up. Always, more soldiers charged in. The courtyard was becoming a storm of blaster fire and chaos. Jack grabbed Soraya's hand and led her behind cover. You okay to run? He asked. She nodded, stunned. Then stay close to me. We're not dying here. They moved like a single unit. He shielded her from every blast. She covered his back when he reloaded. The two of them, alien and human, fighting through a city that had already died once. And somewhere in the smoke and fire, something stronger than war burned between them, something no soldier or sword could ever stop. She had lost everything. But he had returned. And for that, Soraya was ready to fight for life again. Asterisk blaster fire echoed through the ruined streets of Calvora as Jack pulled Soraya through a narrow alley. Smoke filled the air. Rubble crumbled under their feet. Jack's grip on her hand was tight, but not painful, just enough to tell her he wasn't letting go again. Behind them, soldiers shouted. The enemy knew someone had interfered with the execution, and now they were hunting. Jack didn't stop until they reached the lower levels of a collapsed building. He led her down broken stairs, through twisted beams, until they came to a small, hidden space behind a collapsed wall. He pressed his back against the concrete, breathing hard, his rifle aimed toward the shadows. Soraya leaned beside him, her chest rising quickly, not from fear, but from the rush of being alive. She touched her wrist. You cut me loose. Jack finally looked at her directly, his face covered in ash and blood, but his eyes steady. I was too slow, he muttered. You came back, she interrupted. You weren't supposed to. Your people left. I stayed. Why? Jack didn't answer right away. He checked his weapon, then finally said, because I couldn't stop thinking about you. And because this war isn't right. They're killing civilians, destroying places that never fired a single shot. That's not what I signed up for. Soraya watched him quietly. His words were like warmth through cold water. She had spent weeks thinking he abandoned her. Now he stood here, bleeding for her, fighting for her. What happened? She asked. Softly, why did they attack us? The treaty held for centuries. Jack shook his head. No one knows. Rumor is some council back on Earth discovered something here. A mineral, energy-rich, valuable. Greedy politicians made a deal with the wrong species. Now it's all out of control. The people giving orders don't care about the lives down here. They just want results. Soraya clenched her fists. Her people had always believed in unity, fairness, peace. They thought humans were the same. Maybe some were. Maybe only a few like Jack remained. I watched them destroy my school, she said, voice trembling. They didn't care who was. Inside, my friends. My family. They didn't even give us a warning. Jack's jaw tightened. I saw it too. A sound echoed from above, metal boots stomping through the rubble. Enemy scouts. Jack motioned for silence. He moved in front of her, body tense like a shield. Soraya pressed close behind him, trying not to breathe too loudly. Voices passed over them, rough and angry. Then they faded. For now, he waited another full minute before he moved. We can't stay here long. Once night falls, patrols sweep this whole sector. Where are we going? Jack glanced over his shoulder. Underground, resistance shelter. Some of your people are still alive. Hiding. Fighters, doctors, even children. I've been helping them. She blinked. There are survivors? More than you think. And they need you. You're not just any girl, sorry. You're the daughter of a peace ambassador, right? She nodded slowly. My mother was. She died in the first attack. I'm sorry, Jack said. But her message, her belief, can still matter. People still listen to your name. They just need someone to speak it loud again. Soraya didn't feel like a leader, not now. She felt broken. But when Jack looked at her like that, she was still whole, something inside her shifted. You're risking your life, she whispered. He shrugged. I already did that when I stayed. You could have escaped. Gone home, lived your life. Jack looked at her closely now, his voice lower. I wouldn't call that living. They stared at each other for a long second. In the silence, Soraya heard her own heartbeat. I don't even know what this is, she said quietly, this feeling when I see you, but I held on to it every day I thought you were gone. Jack took a slow breath. It's what brought me back. Another rumble above interrupted them. This time louder, closer. Jack grabbed his gear. We move now, come on. He led her through underground tunnels carved beneath the city. Old water lines, storage chambers, rusted doors. Soraya followed closely, watching the human who had saved her with his own body now guiding her to a new hope. Finally, they reached a sealed hatch. Jack knocked in a pattern 3 times, then 2, then 1. A metal slit opened. Eyes peered. Out. Password? Someone asked. Mercer, Jack said. With a guest. The door unlocked with a hiss. As they stepped into the chamber beyond, Soraya gasped. Dozens of alien survivors sat around fires made from broken tech. Children played silently. Wounded soldiers were being tended by medics. And on one far wall, a mural of her mother stood, untouched by fire. Everyone turned to look at her. She's alive. Someone whispered. Jack placed his hand gently on her shoulder. You're not alone anymore. And for the first time since the war began, Soraya believed it. Soraya stepped into the underground chamber slowly, her eyes scanning the shadowed faces of the survivors. Most of them were wounded, exhausted, or simply stunned to see her alive. The heat from the makeshift fires warmed her chilled skin, but it did little to melt the cold knot in her chest. No one spoke for a moment. Then, a small girl ran forward and wrapped her arms around Soraya's waist. I knew you weren't dead, she whispered, her eyes wide and glowing with hope. Soraya knelt down, hugging the child tightly. That one act made the others start to move slowly, carefully stepping out from behind crates and shadows. Murmurs filled the room. Is it really her? She was caught. No one escapes the executions. She was protected by a human. The last part hung in the air. Jack stepped forward, giving a short nod to the group. This is Soraya. She's one of you. And she's the reason I stayed. A tall alien male, wearing patched armor and holding a pulse rifle, approached. His face was lined with scars, but his tone was calm. Human, you brought back someone we thought we'd lost. That earns respect, but why are you really here? Jack didn't flinch. Because I've seen what your people stand for. And I've seen what mine are becoming. I won't be part of that. I want to help you survive and fight back. Fight? Another alien woman asked, voice full of fear. We're broken. We've lost everything. Not everything, Soraya said, finally rising to her feet. Her voice was stronger. Now steadier. Not our will, not our future. If we give up now, we hand them everything. But if we stand together, human and alien, they won't win. The survivors listened. The firelight danced across their tired faces, but something had changed. There was a flicker in their eyes now, a spark that hadn't been there minutes ago. The leader gave a slow nod. We have food for 3 days. Power for maybe 5, but if she leads... I'll follow. Others murmured agreement. Jack looked at Soraya. You just gave them something they haven't had in weeks. What? Hope. That night they sat side by side near the edge of the chamber. Jack handed her a ration bar, Earth military standard. It tasted like cardboard soaked in salt. But she smiled anyway. Not exactly a royal meal, he said. It's better than dying. They both laughed softly, then fell into a quiet stillness. Soraya stared at the cracked ceiling, listening to the muffled sounds of other survivors resting, crying, or whispering in low voices. I keep thinking about that moment, she said finally. The blade was so close. I thought that was it, that I'd die without knowing what happened to you. Jack glanced at her. I never stopped watching. I was outnumbered. I couldn't act yet, But when I saw them drag you out like that, his jaw tightened. I didn't care if I died. I just had to reach you. Soraya touched his arm. You did. Their eyes locked. And for a second, in the middle of that cold, dark shelter, everything else vanished. But then the walls shook. A distant boom echoed from above. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lights flickered. Panic rose among the survivors. Jack stood immediately, drawing his weapon. They're scanning the area. The alien leader ran over. We have 5 minutes before they send in drones. If they find the tunnel entrance, they won't, Jack said. You still have the jamming signal I gave. You? The leader nodded. It's weak, but still active. Boost it. Use every battery cell you've got. We need to scramble their thermal and motion scans. Jack ran toward a panel near the back of the chamber and began rewiring exposed cables. With practiced hands, sparks flew. Soraya rushed to help, holding up light sources and passing tools. The wall shook again. Louder this time. Everyone was on edge. Suddenly, a scream came from one of the tunnels. They found the entrance. Jack grabbed his rifle. Get everyone to the rear chamber. Soraya stood, heart pounding. I'll help guide them. No. Stay close to me. I can handle this, she said firmly. You trusted me to speak for them. Now trust me to lead them. Jack hesitated, then nodded. We'll meet at the fallback exit. Don't stop for anything. Soraya turned and ran toward the others, her voice strong. Everyone, follow me. Stay low and don't panic. The survivors moved, some limping, some carrying children. The rumble of boots and scanners grew louder from the main tunnel. Red lights blinked down the corridor. Enemy drones entered the lower levels. Jack took cover behind the doorway and opened fire. He didn't care how many were coming. He had something to protect now, something worth dying for. And this time, he wasn't letting her go again. The drones came fast, flying low through the tunnel like metallic hornets. Their red lights blinked wildly, scanning every corner of the underground passage. They made no sound with their wings, just the cold mechanical whirring of machines trained to kill. Jack's heart pounded as he crouched behind the blast-damaged wall. He raised his rifle, waited for a clean shot, and fired. The first drone sparked and spun before crashing into the floor. 2 more darted forward, opening fire with blue plasma bolts. The heat singed the wall behind him, but Jack didn't flinch. Dropped the next drone with a short burst, then rolled to new cover. Keep moving, he shouted into his hoping Soraya heard him. In the rear passage, Soraya led the survivors through the narrow escape tunnel. It was dark, the air thick with dust and fear. The children clung to their parents. The wounded limped. Still, none of them panicked. They followed her because she stood tall, because her voice didn't shake. This way, she called. Don't stop, Jack's holding the front. Someone stumbled. Soraya turned back, helped an elderly alien woman to her feet, and kept moving. In her chest, her heart ached with pressure. She could still hear the echoes of plasma shots, and she kept imagining Jack falling behind them. She couldn't lose him again. Not after he came back. Not after he saved her life with nothing but his body and a single promise. You're not dying today. Jack switched to a sidearm as his rifle overheated. More drones were coming. He counted 6, no 7. They'd found the shelter. They'd likely found her too. He ducked behind a pipe, breathed out slowly, and pulled a small black device from his belt. It was a last resort, a directional EMP, only good for 5 seconds of disruption, and it would leave him blind too. He gritted his teeth and tossed the device into the hallway. It exploded with a silent pulse. All the drones crashed to the ground. At once, their systems disabled. Jack blinked through the afterglow and stood. But just as he took a step, a shadow moved behind him. Too late. A heavy armored alien soldier grabbed him by the throat and slammed him into the wall. The enemy's armor was jet black, with glowing veins of red across the chest. One of the High Command enforcers. A brutal species with no love for humans or aliens like Saraya. Jack struggled to breathe, kicking against the wall. His vision blurred. The enforcer growled in its native tongue, "Traitor." Jack could barely reply, but he managed to smirk. "That's fair." The soldier raised a blade, thin, sharp, vibrating at high frequency. Meant to slice through armor and bone alike. Suddenly, a scream rang out behind them. "Let him go." The enforcer turned just in time to see Saraya leap from the shadows, grabbing a broken metal rod from the ground. She swung it with all her strength, striking the soldier's head. The blow made the beast stumble, giving Jack just enough time to twist free. He fell to one knee, gasping. "I told you to run," he muttered. "I told you I'm not leaving." "You again," she shot back. The enforcer growled and rushed toward her. Jack fired, hitting its leg, but it kept coming. Saraya didn't back down. She stood in front of Jack, arms out, like she would shield him this time. The alien raised its blade, and a sharp whistle filled the air. Suddenly, the enforcer's head jerked sideways, a fresh plasma hole through its helmet. It collapsed. From the back tunnel, the alien leader Jack had met earlier stepped out, holding a smoking rifle. "You two always attract trouble," he said dryly. Jack coughed. "Only on weekdays." They helped each other up. Saraya looked at the fallen enemy, then back at the leader. "Everyone's safe?" "We got them through the fallback exit," he said. "You stalled them long enough." She turned to Jack. "You almost died." He gave her a weak smile. "Yeah, but you came back." Saraya didn't wait. She wrapped her arms around him, pulling him close, her breath shaky. "Don't ever do that again." "I can't promise that," he murmured against her hair, "but I can promise I'll always come back to you." They stood there for a long second, wrapped in each other's arms, surrounded by smoke and rubble, but alive. Together. The alien leader cleared his throat. "We need to move. He'll send more." Jack nodded and looked at Saraya. "We've got a long road ahead." She held his hand tightly. "Then we take it together." And as they disappeared into the darkness of the tunnels, there was no more fear, only the fire of something stronger than war. Something worth surviving for. Dawn never reached the tunnels beneath Kelvora. The city above was ash and fire, but deep underground, life still pulsed quiet, determined. Saraya sat near a flickering light panel, her head resting on Jack's shoulder. Around them, other survivors whispered and rested, their energy drained from the last escape. Jack stayed silent, watching her breathe. She had saved his life. He was the soldier trained, hardened, but she had stood between him and a killing blade. She looked up at him, her voice soft. "What are you thinking?" "That you're braver than I ever was," Jack said. "And that I want to get you far away from all this." Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "There's no far enough." Not anymore. He knew she was right. The invasion had spread beyond Kelvora. Entire provinces had gone dark. Resistance teams scattered across the planet were being hunted, and any species allied with them was treated as an enemy. But something had changed in Saraya. She wasn't just a survivor anymore, she was becoming something more. A symbol. A voice from the far tunnel called out, "Mercer, you'll want to see this." Jack stood, helping Saraya to her feet. They followed the voice to the command room, a small chamber filled with salvaged human and alien tech. Screens flickered with static until one of the resistance scouts tuned a frequency. An image appeared, blurry but clear enough. A human military commander stood at a podium, giving a broadcast from Earth. Kelvora was lost to terrorist groups who betrayed the peace treaty, he was saying. Our forces are responding to threats against our colonies. Any humans aiding the enemy will be punished. Jack clenched his jaw. Lies. "They're calling us the enemy now," said the alien leader beside him. Jack shook his head. "That's not the truth. The real reason is greed, power. Kelvora didn't betray anyone. We were ordered to pull out months before this even began." Saria leaned forward. "Then the galaxy needs to hear the real story." A silence followed. Then the scout said, "You mean broadcast from here?" Saria nodded slowly. "We have the equipment, the cameras, the signal range. We send a message, not just to the people of this planet, but to anyone listening in space. Let them see the truth. Let them see what's happening here. Let them see me alive." Jack met her gaze. He could see it now clearer than ever. She didn't just want to survive. She wanted to fight with her voice. He gave her a slow nod. "I'll set up the feed." A few hours later, with guards posted and power rerouted to the chamber, Saria stood in front of a lens. The camera flickered to life. Jack stayed just behind it, his hand on the controls. The resistance group stood around her, silent, watching. Saria took a breath. Then she began. "My name is Saria Vel of Kelvora. If you see this message, know this. I am alive, and I am not afraid." She paused, her voice growing stronger. "The Earth government says we betrayed peace, that we attacked first, that we deserve what is happening to us. That's a lie. We signed the Treaty of the 10 Stars. We kept it. We never fired a single shot, but they did. And now they silence anyone who stands against them." She looked directly into the camera. Her violet eyes didn't blink. "I was nearly executed in my own city. I was saved by someone they call a traitor by a human. One of their own. And he is not the only one who knows the truth." Jack swallowed hard. She continued, "We are not just fighting for survival. We are fighting for truth, for justice. And we will not disappear quietly. If this reaches even one free world, then I ask you, don't believe what they tell you. Come see with your own eyes. Or stand with us, if you still believe in peace." The screen dimmed. Jack slowly shut down the feed. Silence filled the room. No one clapped. No one cheered. But something had changed. A quiet strength settled over the group, the kind of strength that could build a revolution. Jack stepped up beside her. "You didn't just speak for them," he said. "You spoke for all of us." She turned to him, and for a moment, she looked vulnerable. "What if no one listens?" he smiled. "Then we make them listen." In the far end of the chamber, a console beeped. A signal had been received from orbit, and someone was listening. The console kept blinking a quiet, steady pulse until one of the resistance technicians shouted, "We've got a response." Jack and Saria rushed over as the screen flickered. A message began to stream through the static. It wasn't Earth Military Command. It wasn't a warning or a threat. It was a symbol. A white star inside a blue ring, the crest of the free colonies. "They saw it," Jack whispered. "They actually saw your broadcast." The technician scanned the signal. "It's from a ship in orbit, unregistered, but using old human codes, civilian, possibly independent. They're requesting encrypted communication. Looks like they're friendly." Saria leaned closer. "Put them through." The screen buzzed, and soon a tired but alert face appeared. A middle-aged woman, dark-skinned with gray streaks in her short hair. Behind her were blinking lights and what looked like a patched-together control room. "This is Captain Lin of the Starwind. We're a neutral vessel-free colony registry. We saw your signal. You're speaking truth to a war that's been wrapped in lies. You've got allies out here, but not for long. We're cloaked and low on power." "What's your status?" Jack answered. "Underground. 29 survivors, including wounded and children. But the enemy's tightening their search grid. We're running out of time." Lin nodded. "We can extract, but you have to reach the signal spike zone. It's outside the city perimeter. We'll lower stealth long enough to beam you out in small groups. Soraya's heart pounded. Hope was real. But so was danger. How far is that from here? She asked. The resistance leader checked a worn-out map. About 6 kilometers. Through patrol territory. Mostly ruins, exposed land. They'll see us, Jack said. Every satellite drone will lock on. Soraya stepped forward. Then we don't all go at once. We split. One team leads the children and wounded toward the extraction point. Quietly, the other draws attention, runs loud, fast, and leaves a trail. The leader frowned. That second team won't survive. Jack met Soraya's eyes. We'll lead it. No, the alien said immediately. You just got her back. She's too valuable. She's also the reason we have this chance, Jack said. She can lead. She's not hiding anymore. Soraya nodded. And I won't let someone else take my risk. We'll draw the enemy away. A silence passed. The leader finally gave a solemn nod. May the stars shield you both. Preparations moved fast. Each child received a thermal cloak and noise-suppressing boots scavenged from old military gear. The wounded were placed on stretchers with hover assists. The scouts marked a hidden path toward the old outer wall, where the Starwind's extraction beam would reach. Jack checked his rifle and handed Soraya a small pulse sidearm. You ever fired one of these? She nodded. Training sims. And? Once, at a tree I was very angry at. He smiled. Just don't aim at me. Don't make me consider it, she joked. Eyes flashing with energy. As the first team disappeared into the tunnels, Jack and Soraya moved toward the east exit opposite the escape route. It opened into what used to be a market plaza, now reduced to broken glass, melted walkways, and burned-out transport carts. The moment they stepped into the open, Jack activated a flare beacon, bright blue and pulsing with radio signals. Anyone scanning will see that, he said. Good. Soraya replied. Let them chase us. They ran, weaving between broken buildings, leaping over collapsed walls, firing into the air when patrols passed overhead. Drones picked them up within minutes. Red lights painted the ground around them. A warning echoed. Through the city's speaker towers, unauthorized movement detected. Eliminate targets. Human traitor identified. Gunships rose from the ruins. Soraya and Jack dove into the skeletal remains of a transport station. The roof was half gone. The supports were falling apart. But it gave them cover for a few moments. They're not holding back, she said. They know who you are now. They fired back at the patrols, disabling one drone with a clean shot to its sensor. Jack tossed a sonic grenade that echoed through the streets and rattled the glass still hanging from towers. We've got to keep moving, he said. 2 more blocks. If we die, at least we'll do it loud. Soraya touched his shoulder. We're not dying yet. Suddenly, a rumble came from above. A gunship hovered into view, heavily armed, scanning the building. They were trapped. But then, a blast of energy struck the ship from the side. It spun out, crashed into a skyscraper, and exploded in flame. Soraya's eyes widened. What? Jack turned to the sky and saw it. A second ship. Not the enemy. Sleek, silver, unmarked. The Starwind. It had broken stealth early. Jack grinned. They came anyway. Captain Lin's voice came over the comm. We're bringing you in now. Stand still. A beam of light surrounded them, humming with power. Soraya reached out and grabbed Jack's hand as their bodies began to lift. Below them, the city burned, but they were rising above it. Together. Up into the sky. Toward freedom. The beam pulled them higher, the ruined city shrinking below. Dust swirled through the light, blowing around their bodies like fireflies. Soraya clung to Jack's hand as their boots left the ground. Her heart pounded, but not from fear, from everything she had just survived. From the sound of her name whispered through crowded tunnels, from the memory of a blade raised above her head, and from the warmth of the human hand that never let go. Above them, the starwind opened like a blooming flower. Hatches slid aside, revealing a circular bay where energy shimmered like water. The beam pulled them inside with a gentle hum before the hatch sealed again. Soraya collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. Jack dropped beside her, laughing breathlessly. "Well, that was fun." She turned and hit him lightly in the chest. "That was not fun," Jack winced. "Okay, maybe a little fun. But hey, we're alive." The door behind them slid open with a hiss. Captain Lin stepped through, arms crossed. Her face looked tired, but her voice was calm. "Welcome aboard." "Barely." Soraya stood, bowing slightly. "You saved us," Lin nodded. "You saved yourselves. I just gave you the door." They followed her down narrow corridors lit by flickering emergency lights. The ship groaned under its own weight, clearly patched together over many years. But it flew. And right now, it was hope in motion. When they reached the bridge, Lin motioned to the screen. "We've picked up your other group, halfway to the pickup point. They'll make it." Soraya exhaled deeply. "And the signal?" "Your message is spreading," Lin said. "At least 5 outer colonies are rebroadcasting it. 2 human factions have gone dark, likely arguing. And 1 Terran news satellite actually reported it before Earth Command shut it down." Jack leaned forward. "So the lie is cracking," Lin shrugged. "Maybe, but there's a long fight ahead." Soraya stared at the stars beyond the bridge window. She had grown up believing in peace. Then she'd nearly died under a blade held by her own kind, driven mad by politics and lies. But now she stood between worlds, half of her heart still broken, but the other half burning with something new. "What do we do now?" she asked quietly. Jack stepped beside her. "Whatever we want. We're not prisoners anymore." But Soraya didn't smile. "Not yet. No, we're still part of this war. And I'm not going to run. I want to speak again. I want to show them what Earth Command is hiding, what Kelvora has lost. I want to fight with my voice, with the truth." Lin nodded slowly. "Then we'll give you the ship's core coms. You'll have full signal range within 3 systems. After that, we'll need to refuel and dodge blockades." "And if they send ships to chase us?" Jack asked. Lin smirked. "Then we remind them this old bird still bites." A few hours later, the survivors from the second group were safely aboard. The ship was cramped, now packed with aliens of all ages. Some cried, some slept. Some simply stared out of the small windows, watching the stars they thought they'd never see again. Jack found Soraya standing near the observation dome. She didn't hear him at first, her mind clearly somewhere far away. He stepped closer. "They're safe, all of them. We did it." She nodded. "I still feel like it's not over." "It's not," he said gently. "But now you're not alone. None of us are." She turned to him, eyes shimmering with emotion. "You gave me your body to shield me from a blade. You gave up your home, your people, everything." Jack shook his head. "I didn't give up anything. I found something better." She took a shaky breath. "I don't know what's coming next, but I know I don't want to face it without you." He reached for her hand. "Then you won't." They stood there, in silence, under the stars. And then, Soraya pulled him into a soft kiss. Not one of fear or desperation, but of survival. Of truth. Of love born in fire and sharpened by war. Later, as her next broadcast echoed through deep space, watched secretly by rebels and sympathizers across dozens of systems, her voice carried a new weight, not just as a survivor, not just as a daughter of a diplomat, but as a symbol. A leader, a girl who had once knelt before a blade, and now stood tall beside a human who had shielded her with his life. Together, they would change the galaxy. And this time, no one would silence them.